Good morning, Waken Takers. As you can see around me, not morning for me. This is going to be a pre-recording that I am doing on Wednesday night, the night before Thanksgiving. We're here. It's week 13. When you're watching this, it will be Thanksgiving. It will be Thursday, November 27th. I'm your host, Justin Owens, the Lord O Games. It is good to be back, Waken Takers. I have been missing this. It's been a absolutely wild 2 weeks. Gonna go ahead and just I'll give you guys the peek behind the curtain here, a peek into my personal life a little bit. But what happened was last Tuesday, got into a little bit of a car accident. Everyone's okay. Everything's okay in terms of that. Just having to go through all of the hoops and different phone calls, appointments, things like that to just take care of all of that. So that kind of has been throwing off the normal routine and schedule that I have. And on top of that, last Thursday, I was already kind of planning on not being able to have a show for last Thursday because it was me and my wife's 5-year anniversary. We went on a nice little trip. So I've been out of the loop. I've been out of touch. I've been doing my best to keep up with everything as best I can. My fantasy teams are afloat, but my brain is all over the place. So I definitely have missed being here talking to you guys. I know that once again, this isn't live, so I don't get that, that back and forth with you guys that I always do, but looking forward to getting back to that routine starting next week again, week 14, right before the playoffs, better, just get right back on schedule right before the fantasy playoffs and everything's all good. We're all good in that front. But like I said, don't want to, bore you guys too much with any of the details of all of that. But that is where I have been from last Thursday to this Tuesday. And like I said, I wanted to squeeze something in for you guys this week. It's not going to be a normal flow of the show that we typically have, but I'm still going to make sure that I'm hitting all of the matchups, letting you know who is the starts, who's the sits. We will weave in the news, the starts and sits. We'll weave it in to each matchup as we go. So it's going to be a little bit of a different flow than what we typically see on the Thursday show. But hey, it's Thanksgiving week. It's not a typical week anyway. So I feel like this is the perfect, it's all going to work. It'll work out perfectly fine here with you guys. So I appreciate anyone for joining in on the live stream. I will be doing my best to be in the chat as well, so I can answer questions as we go, while we're watching the Macy's Day Parade, as I'm finishing up cooking up all the sides that I'm bringing over for the family dinner. So hopefully you guys can go ahead and just turn me on over here on YouTube or X or wherever you watch or listen, and just, enjoy the fun vibes that we got going on for our Thanksgiving week of football here in week 13. As always, be sure to follow and subscribe, like all of the videos here on YouTube of the Player Profiler Now channel. It allows us to keep doing what we're doing. And really, if you like the video, just it takes one click. It takes one click and all of a sudden it's out the way. You don't got to think about it anymore. So I appreciate all of you that come by and do that and watch the show. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter at @JOwens_FF. Like I said, past 2 weeks been a little bit quiet over there. Been doing my best to get my rankings out at least by Sunday morning, as I've been doing my best to keep up with that. But definitely going to start ramping that back up as I get back into a normal routine and normal flow of things. But let's not belabor this anymore. We got a big slate. There's no bye weeks because we get the Thanksgiving slate. So we got the 3 games on Thursday, today, tonight, and then we also have the Black Friday game tomorrow, Friday afternoon. We get the Chicago Bears at the Philadelphia Eagles, and then we get our normal cavalcade of games on our Sunday, 1 p.m., 4 p.m., and our Sunday Night Football, ending with Denver at Washington. And then we also get our normal Monday Night Football of the Giants at the New England Patriots. So let's jump right in, guys. Let's go. It's week 13 matchup time, and we're just going to go in order of the games, baby. That's how we're going to roll. Up first, it's the tradition. It's, everyone can talk about, it's the Dallas Cowboys tradition. Nah, it's the Detroit Lions tradition to play the Thanksgiving game. And here we are once again. I love when we get these battles, these NFC North battles, mixed in with the Thanksgiving tradition. And here we got a big one. This is going to be a very heavy determining factor in not only the NFC North, who's going to come out of the NFC North, but who's going to make it in the NFC playoffs altogether. We all know Green Bay didn't come in, but Green Bay welcomed Detroit in week 1 and went ahead and smacked them up quite a bit with the heavy defensive hand. But while that Green Bay defense is still stout, that Green Bay offense has looked very suspicious. We are supposed to have Josh Jacobs back, so that will be interesting to see how much work he is actually going to get. That's really what I'm interested in is it going to be a full, like he's expected to play? Is it going to be typically when we see Josh Jacobs play, he gets that full 80%. Like he is the bell cow, even when he's like a questionable up until game time type decision. But Emmanuel Wilson has been playing so well that do they want to do that? Do they want to trot out a banged up Josh Jacobs who might not be 100% right now? Do they want him to get the lion's share of the carries when Emmanuel Wilson has been perfectly fine? Just last week put up 107 yards on 28 carries with 2 touchdowns. Like dude balled out last week against Minnesota. He had a solid game in relief of Josh Jacobs against the Giants where he had 12 touches, another touchdown and another 50 yards. Like he didn't get the full like game plan built around him. So it'll be very interesting to see. I mean, obviously if you have Josh Jacobs, you're firing him up. You're not benching the guy if he's active. You just can't do that. But Emmanuel Wilson is an interesting person here. I personally, with Josh Jacobs playing, I don't trust him enough to play him. Like I said, every time we saw Jacobs a couple weeks ago come in questionable, dependent upon the warmups, how he felt if he would go or not. And he goes in and he scores 2 touchdowns that game and got the bulk of the carries there. So really, I with Jacobs starting, I'm benching Wilson. In the wide receiver world, you can start your Dobbs. And I would start Dobbs and Watson would be the 2 that I'm starting here. You can't trust anyone else. Jaden Reed not expected to be activated. We get the Matt LaFleur BS where it's like, oh, we'll see you on Thursday. The least fun guy in the world. Like he's probably the most annoying person to be around ever. I would imagine, obviously not around him, but just from the way that he conducts himself in the pressers, it's just he feels insufferable. So not expecting to see Jaden Reed out there, but this Detroit defense, we saw him get carved up by Jameis Winston last week. I think that last week also was a bit of a trap game for Detroit where they were looking to this game. They knew that they were going to have a short turnaround from the Giants to Green Bay. So I got a feeling that a lot of the game planning was built around Green Bay and it just did not translate to the New York Giants game. So I think that might be why there was some stumbling and falling. But this secondary is still very suspect. It is still a very, very suspect secondary, even with Reed back and everyone kind of getting healthy. It's just they're still banged up to the point where there's plays to be had. And with the Detroit offense, I do expect them to make this a very boat race type game. I think that's what Detroit needs to do to win this game in Detroit. So I think that means that Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs are going to get their targets, and that is going to be all that I'm looking at in terms of the Green Bay Packers. I don't trust Jordan Love. I don't trust any of these other wide receivers, Golden, Wicks. I can't trust them. I don't trust Musgrave. It's just there's no one. Jordan Love has not been consistent enough for me to trust anyone outside of those top 2 guys. And Watson is really the one that I'm looking to as who I want. He's been he's had the snap count, he's had the targets and everything, and Dobbs has just been the same dude that he's been from week 1, where he's getting the targets, he looks fine, but he's not doing anything if he's not scoring touchdowns, and those just have not been coming lately. We have here Christian Watson has been running over 80% of the routes since week 10. So he came back week 8, slowly got ramped up for 2 weeks. And then from week 10 on, he's been consistently in there for 75+% of the snaps, 80+% of the routes. And the targets have been pretty consistent. And I mean, he's racking up the air yards as he does. Like that's what we know Christian Watson is. And that's why I want him in my week 13 lineup, because he is able to hit that home run. He is being targeted enough to where you get those shots. I mean, he's got games of 112 air yards, 126 air yards, 87, 74. So like he's getting the deep targets. It's looking good. And that's really where I want to place my chips here for the Green Bay Packers. On the Detroit side, it's really simple. It really is. I know you I've been saying like, oh, sometimes it's a Monty game, sometimes it's a JMO game. Those are becoming impossible to predict. And I think that one of those names is starting to fall off the list, as we've seen as of late. it's Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown locked, loaded. That's it. Uh, Honestly, this week I would feel comfortable starting Jameson Williams because again, I think that the offense is going to be needed. I know that the offense has been needed every week, and Jameson Williams has come up with some goose egg zeros out there. But I still think that you have to roll him out there, especially in this matchup in a must-win at-home game in the Dome. I feel perfectly fine starting Jameson Williams. Again, I know the numbers have not been there. I know we saw two weeks in a row where it was like, oh, MCDC takes over play calling. It's here, Jameson. This is the Jameson we expected. And then, of course, like I said, last week, we come back and 3 targets, 0 catches, 19 air yards. Like I have no defense for that. But I mean, looking at the previous 3 weeks, we got 6 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets, a touchdown in each of those 3 weeks. And the snaps and the routes they've been there all season. So yes, you're going to have to eat some of these terrible games with Jameson, but in a game like this, I'm 100% firing him up. I can't have him go off on my bench. And that's how it is. No Laporta here means that there's no tight end to care about in Detroit. And outside of those top 2 wide receivers, I'm not starting them. And honestly, David Montgomery is someone that I am just not interested in starting, especially in this matchup. We've seen Green Bay. They've lightened up against running backs a little bit here, but it's just one of those things. We've seen 2 weeks in a row now. Gibbs is up at 74% of the snaps compared to David Montgomery's 34 to 40% of the snaps. So it's definitely been a turn of usage here where Gibbs is everything. Gibbs is the driving force behind this offense, and Montgomery is just an afterthought right now. And until we see that proven otherwise, you can confidently plop David Montgomery on your bench. It feels sad to say, but that's just the way it's been for the past couple weeks, and that's just the way it's going to continue to be. The offensive line isn't as good as it was. Frank Ragnow coming back, not this week. Don't expect him to be playing tomorrow, but Frank Ragnow coming back could change that a little bit. We could see a little bit more of the 50-50 here with Gibbs and Monty, but for the time being, until it is proven otherwise, I am, like I said, I got a nice heated seat for David Montgomery to sit down and just enjoy the show, because Jahmyr Gibbs is just the most electric running back in the league right now. We've seen amazing things out of Jonathan Taylor this year. We've seen amazing things out of Christian McCaffrey once again. We've seen amazing things out of Bijan Robinson. But what Jahmyr Gibbs is doing is just game breaking on a weekly basis now. Like how many? This is what, 3 games now this entire season where he's almost eclipsed 200 yards. I mean, in the past 3 weeks, he's got a game with 172 yards. He's got a game with 156 yards, and then a game with 264 yards. Like, those are video game Madden numbers right there. And that's exactly like that. That's why Montgomery is going to be firmly riding the bench, because Montgomery can't do that. He just can't. Not with the state of this offensive line. So Detroit's becoming a little bit more consolidated, a little bit more simple due to injuries and just due to the fact of the offensive line isn't working the way that it did last year and isn't allowing them to play football the way that they did last year. So it's very much consolidated around Gibbs and St. Brown as the absolute locked in core. And then I do expect Jameson still to have his games, and I do expect week 13 to be one of those games. We could go ahead and move on. Sorry, I get a little bit more passionate about that one, being the Lions fan. I'm very much looking forward to enjoying that one with the family and some turkey. And then moving on for the 4:30 game for when people are probably doing their dinners. It's Kansas City going into Dallas, and Dallas is making a push here. Dallas taking down Philadelphia last week was quite the performance. They get Kansas City at home. Kansas City is in desperation territory to make the playoffs themselves. And we know in terms of fantasy football what going up against the Dallas Cowboys means. It means fire up just about everybody that you got. So Patrick Mahomes, top 5 QB this week. Easy, locked and loaded. Kareem Hunt, I know Pacheco is back. I'm still starting Kareem Hunt. I do not care that Pacheco is back. We've seen this last year when Pacheco goes out with an injury and comes back, and you're like, oh, it's going to like Pacheco's going to be fine. Pacheco's going to be fine. And then it's Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt just had a big game. He had a 100-yard game, a 100-yard game and a touchdown. And I mean, 4 straight games with a touchdown. It's what Kareem Hunt has been. He's been the consistent, reliable option in the red zone. And when they need to trust a running back with the ball, it has been Kareem Hunt. Even with Isaiah Pacheco out there, even with Brashard Smith out there, it does not matter who is the most explosive athlete, who is the best runner. Kareem Hunt is getting the work for Kansas City, and the matchup says, yeah. So definitely one of my favorite starts of the week is Kareem Hunt here. And then, of course, you're starting up Rashee Rice. Dude's just, he's had one. No, he hasn't even had a stinker. I'm sorry. He's got one stinker. He had one stinker against Denver, which even without PS2, that's not surprising here. But the guy in half PPR has been over 15 fantasy points in every single game except for against Denver. And we're going to go ahead and see another one here this week. The targets have been insane. He's averaging he's just averaging an insane amount of targets here. 19, 26, 30, 35, 40, yeah, about 8-9 targets a game here for Rashee Rice. About 9 to 10 targets per game for Rashee Rice, and he's right back. Like he is the driving force behind this offense here. Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, who is another one of my favorite starts of the week. I just love the Kansas City offense this week going into Dallas in a must win here. And both teams are in must win. So it's going to be a scrappy game. It's going to be fun. If you need a flyer type guy, you can go ahead and play Xavier Worthy. He was on the injury report with an ankle injury, but he's had 2 full practices. So I think that was more of just late season rest for a guy who's been kind of dinged up all season. So if you need the big boom opportunity, Xavier Worthy is worth the shot because this Dallas defense still ain't it. They made trades to go ahead and bolster up some of the defense a little bit, but you can't fix broken secondary. And if there's one person that's going to take advantage of broken plays and broken coverages, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes to a very fast Xavier Worthy. So if you need that flex dart lottery ticket right there, Xavier Worthy is going to be your guy. But other than that, it's very simple. It's Kareem Hunt. I don't feel, if you have to start Pacheco, if you are beaten and battered at running back, you can go ahead and start Pacheco and hope that he gets a nice couple runs here. But I'm not trusting Pacheco this week. First week off the injury that lingered a little bit longer than originally expected. And Kareem Hunt looking perfectly fine in a plus matchup where I don't think that they're going to need Pacheco. So I don't think that they're going to overload him here. Again, we saw it last year where he comes back and they do not overload him. On the flip side of this matchup, over on the Dallas Cowboys side, how do you turn away from the big four? It's been very simple. It's been Javonte, I feel fine with. The Kansas City Chiefs are a bit more stout against running backs, but I think that they have bigger fish to fry when they're covering and game planning for this offense. And those 2 fish are very big fish. It's CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, George Pickens, just the ascension here is everything that I wanted. Everything that I've hoped for George Pickens coming out of college that he did not get in Pittsburgh. He's receiving here. He's getting the targets. He's there's argument that he's not the 2, that he is the 1B to CeeDee Lamb. I still think it's a very clear 1-2 hierarchy. I know, but the way that the dude's been balling out, he is making the push. He's making the case for sure. So you're obviously starting those 2 dudes there. You're not turning away from them. The interesting one is going to be Jake Ferguson, because ever since he came back, he has been quiet. He's still getting the targets. So it's hard to say oh, you can't go to him, but he just has not quite been the red zone target that he was earlier in the season, pre-injury. He had the injury week 8. And before that, he had, just an ungodly stretch, 4 games in a row with a touchdown. And in those 4 games, he had 6 touchdowns. So he was on an ungodly stretch there. He did have a touchdown last week against Vegas, but we're just not quite seeing the same output from Ferguson. But tight end is so ugly that if you got him, I highly doubt that you have a better option than Jake Ferguson. So you're starting him up, but you're kind of holding your breath a little bit. I don't know if there's really any pivot options that I would say you got to go for him, but I still trust Jake Ferguson. This offense is going to have to pass the ball, especially in this game. I do see this game hitting the over. I do see it being a high scoring game because Kansas City's defense isn't quite what it was. They are still good, but they're not shutting teams down. And Dallas's offense and Dallas's defense they've been doing it all season where they're just facilitating shootout after shootout. And we're going to see it again to wake everybody up from the turkey-itis. We're getting an electric match here. And then to close the night out for Thanksgiving night, it is going to be Cincinnati at the Baltimore Ravens. We get a fun little AFC North matchup here. And we get to see Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is coming back. He has been activated. His window is opened, and he has been confirmed as the starter for Week 13. We get Joe Burrow. We get Joe Burrow back, baby. And that spells just wondrous things for Jamar Chase, who will be operating with no T. Higgins to his opposite. It will be, was it Andre Yoshivas will be the wide receiver 2 with T. Higgins missing due to the concussion he suffered in Week 12. So we've gone from a game with no Chase but T. Higgins, and now we get a game with Chase but no Higgins. So a little bit of flip-flop from last week, and then we get the better of the two Joes in the game. He's hungry. He wants to dash the Baltimore Ravens playoff hopes here. And I mean, I have another like sinking feeling that this could be a little bit of a letdown in terms of fantasy points, just because it's Joe Burrow's first game back. This Baltimore defense has looked good, and there's no T. Higgins. So I am a little bit worried about the over on this one, but you cannot not start a guy like Jamar Chase. You can't not start Chase Brown, who has been on fire for the past, 4 or 5 weeks now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Past 5 weeks, he's topped his double-digit drought that he went on. And I mean, starting in Week 8 against the Jets, he's scored over 15 fantasy points in every single game in full PPR there. So he has been on absolute fire as of late. I do expect it to continue out of necessity. Absolutely. And Joe Burrow being back and kind of getting this offense flowing once again. Joe Flacco did a great job of bringing back life to this team. And now, as I said a couple weeks ago, Joe Burrow is coming here. He is full circle Phoenix revival of this team in terms of fantasy football. I think that their playoff hopes are dashed, unfortunately, taking 2 L's with Joe Flacco the past 2 weeks, but I think they're 100% looking to play spoiler here for the AFC North, because they do have Baltimore this week, Baltimore Week 15, and then Cleveland Week 18. So they are definitely looking to play spoiler to Baltimore here, and they also get Buffalo in Week 14. So a lot of AFC teams that they can go ahead and dash the hopes of and get Joe Burrow back into a groove here. On the flip side, honestly, while we're talking about Cincinnati, I think Yoshivas is an interesting start. We did see some high usage last week, 7 targets, 61 yards. So without T. Higgins, I do expect to see a similar amount of targets and a similar set there. So the whole thing is with Week 13, we're here with no buys because of Thanksgiving. So do I really want to start Yoshivas? Not really. If I absolutely have to in my deeper leagues, I think he is very much worth a flyer type shot, but I do not think that he is a locked in wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type play. Like I said, this Baltimore defense has been better. I know that Kyle Hamilton, I'm not sure. I haven't seen the status on Kyle Hamilton, but he might not be playing. So that does affect the Baltimore defense, but still, I'm a little bit hesitant. I do think that Mike Gesicki can be fired up and tossed right into the for your tight end needy teams. 6 targets once he came back, and he was running a good amount of the routes out there with the coming back off of his injury. You got to think with another week out there. Yes, only 43% of snaps, but I do expect that to go up as he gets warmed up coming back off the injury. And I think that this is a good spot for him to do that with no T. Higgins. On the flip side with Baltimore, it's another fairly simple team. Lamar Jackson has been bad for fantasy the past 2 games. They've been winning against bad teams, but it just it's been on the back of Derrick Henry, and I think that's kind of going to continue here. I do think that Jackson has a better game though, because Cincinnati is such a problem on with their defense, especially against tight ends. They just can't cover a tight end to save their life. Like it's been the mantra all season is you start your tight ends against Cincinnati. And I mean, we saw that last week. Hunter Henry explosion, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. It does not matter who is playing against Cincinnati. You start your tight end. So I'm firing up Mark Andrews easily. I'll even play Isaiah Likely in on a team where I'm kind of like unsure if I should start a guy or not. I'll throw Likely out there in my deep tight end premium leagues. I'll toss Likely out there because I think that this defense is just, that's where you beat them. And Baltimore has been playing that 12 personnel a lot, where they have both Andrews and Likely out on the field. It's just Andrews been catching the touchdown, so that's why he's getting all the mention right now. But I think that both Andrews and Likely can have good games here. Derrick Henry, super easy start here. I mean, the dude's been crushing these defenses. I mean, even against Cleveland, 103 yards and a tutty against one of the best run defenses in the league. Last week, 64 yards and 2 tutties against the Jets. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, another just, they get eaten up on the ground. They get eaten up by the tight ends. They just get eaten up in general. So while the hopes and dreams of Baltimore Ravens playoffs hopes are in the air, I think that Derrick Henry is going to be a big piece in bringing them step by step closer to that likelihood. Also, it's at home. That's like we're in full blown Derrick Henry Yeti mode territory. It's cold. It's getting colder. It's Thanksgiving. It's winter is right around the corner here. It's Derrick Henry time, straight up. You can start your Zay Flowers. He's been the most consistently mid wide receiver all season. So if you just want to take your 10 points and go home, you can go ahead and start Zay Flowers, wide receiver 24 on the year, because he's wildly consistent in that 10-point wide receiver 2 range. So I expect more of that. There could be a little bit extra with the matchup if we do get to see the fireworks, but I'm perfectly fine plugging Zay Flowers in as just an okay wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, 10-point type of guy. Like I said, we do get a Black Friday game, so we're going to go ahead and jump over to that. It's going to be the Chicago Bears at the Philadelphia Eagles, which who would have thought that we would see this matchup at 2 teams 8-3, a battle for the NFC like conference claim of first place. Like obviously we got the whole NFC West out there, but I mean this is a big matchup to help determine that that playoff bye and that first seed here. And this is a chance for Chicago to prove that they're the real deal. We'll see. This game scares the living hell out of me in terms of fantasy football, because Philadelphia's defense and offense have just not, like, they're the complete antithesis of the Dallas Cowboys, who have been facilitating shootouts. And we got to see the unstoppable force meet the immovable object last week with those 2 teams playing each other. But now we get Philadelphia and Chicago. And I don't think that Chicago is going to be able to facilitate the shootout, especially with this game being in Philadelphia. I think we're going to be in for a very disappointing fantasy output. The only people that I'm really excited about in this game is going to be Jalen Hurts. And really, that's it. That's it. Like, Jalen Hurts is the only one that I feel confident about this week. If I had to pick like another player, it would be Saquon Barkley. Those would be the top 2 guys that I feel any type of confidence about this week. Chicago's been all right. Chicago's been good on defense. They've been having a lot of takeaways, but that's mainly been in the passing game. They're still susceptible to the run, so that's why I'm really leaning on Barkley. And Hurts has just been very consistent, even when the team isn't putting up big points. Just out of the way that they do score when they score, it's often on the back of a tush push. And if they do have a good passing output, Hurts is the beneficiary of that. So no matter what the Philadelphia Eagles like troubles have been on offense, Jalen Hurts has still been able to get it done in fantasy. It might not look pretty. You might not be excited watching it. You might just feel gross having those points hit your fantasy ledger. But points is points, man. Points is points. We saw 31 out of him last week in 4-point passing touchdown. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. So that's just on the table. So Jalen Hurts, easy lock. Caleb Williams has been a little hot and cold. He had another good game last week against Pittsburgh, but again, going into Philadelphia, I just do not see shootout in this game. If we're looking at the over under, we have here it's a 44.5 point over under with Philly being 7-point favorites. I mean I'm betting the under on that one for sure. That just feels high based off of what we've seen out of Philadelphia defense the past couple weeks, and I think that continues here. I do think that Chicago has improved, but I do not think that they have improved enough to go ahead and top the Philadelphia Eagles this week. Is it going to be an AJ Brown or a Devonta Smith week? I don't know anymore, dude. Like I said, the Chicago defense has been good against the pass, so I don't know if we will see either of them really have a good game. This feels like it could be another Detroit level game where it's just dragged down into the mud, and the only person who's getting any points is Jalen Hurts. Obviously, you're still. I feel like you have to start both these guys, especially after they had. I mean, AJ Brown with the 10 targets, 110 yards and a touchdown last week. Devonta Smith, 11 targets, 89 yards last week. Like, you would think that would be like something that they build off of, but we've seen this season where they have the big blow up game and then they go back to running dink dunk terrible offense. And I don't see any consistency here where I can say like I feel good about either of these guys. Obviously, I think you have to start both of them. You have to start both of them. You won't feel good about it, but you have to start both of them. And then Dallas Goedert, he's been very quiet ever since the touchdowns have dried up over the past 3 weeks after the bye. And I feel like you do have better options if you have Dallas Goedert. So there are other tight ends out there that I would start. I could have sworn I had my rankings pulled up. Give me 1 second here, guys. But yeah, like I feel like Goddard is like, I would probably start like a Jawan Johnson over Goddard right now. I would consider a Brenton Strange over Goddard right now. If honestly, it doesn't even matter but Theo Johnson would be another one that I would would consider starting over Dallas Goedert right now. So those types of guys who are guaranteed high targets are guys that I would start over even a Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz just feels like a higher target, less touchdown chance version of Dallas Goedert. It's probably not Schultz though, but those guys are probably neck and neck for me. But Jawan Johnson, Theo Johnson, Brenton Strange are all guys that I would start over Dallas Goedert this week, even though Goddard is ranked above those guys. For Chicago, like I said, I don't feel good about it. You have to start your Swift. It's not going to be fun. This is a tough defensive front, and we have seen Swift start to dwindle in terms of opportunities and snaps, losing opportunities to Monangai, is especially on the goal line. But they're very much in this awkward territory where like you still kind of got to start Swift. I know that Monangai got more usage last week. But it's just, do you even have to start Swift? Like I'm sitting here, like I'm having a breakdown mid take here where I don't know if you have to start Swift. I think you can pivot off of Swift with the way that this is becoming a 50-50 split in a bad matchup. I don't think you need to start Swift or Monangai unless your team absolutely dictates you to. And then you start your Odunze, but again, he's another guy where coming out of that bye, like after that bye week, he's only had 2 good fantasy games, but the targets just say you have to do it. And this is a game that I expect them to have to throw a lot. So I think Odunze will be fine. DJ Moore, I get it. The big game last week. Love that. Sit him this week. Don't chase that. Don't chase that dragon, especially if you benched him last week and you're trying to chase those. Excuse me. If you're trying to chase those points, you're going to regret it. So really start Odunze. Loveland is another guy where I'm benching him. I know he's had a couple games here where he's looked good, but I'm not chasing that touchdown dragon that we saw. He's been kind of capped at that 60% snap share, 5-6 targets, 4-5 targets, 4-5-6 targets since Cole Kmet came back. So I am not trying to chase that dragon here on Friday. I am looking to pivot to, again, any of those guys that I mentioned over Goddard, where it's your Jawan Johnson, Theo Johnson, Brenton Strange. I'm looking at all three of those guys over both of the tight ends in this game here. That is it for the Thursday and the Friday night games. So the rest of these games will be the normal cadence and the normal slate here. Just me going down the order that I have them here. First up, we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Carolina Panthers. And this feels like it's going... I sit here and I feel like the Rams are just going to slaughter the Carolina Panthers. But Carolina's at home. And for whatever reason, they always, like, they've done it, I don't know how many times now, where they will win a big game and then they will come out the following week and just look terrible. And then they go out the next week and they win a big game. And there's, once again, zero statistical basis to this other than just, I feel it in my plums type deal. But here we are once again. Like here we go. They get absolutely blown out by the Bills after sneaking a win out from the Jets. And then they come out and then they beat the Packers 16-13. And then they come out and they put up 7 points against the New Orleans Saints. But then they come out and they put up 30 points on the Falcons and win in overtime. And then they go out and they look like absolute dookie versus the 49ers. This Carolina team is so bipolar that I do not know what to expect out of this game, but I'm going to stick with what I have seen out of the Rams, and that is pure dominance. Again, the only reason that I'm kind of feeling this way is because this does feel like a bit of a trap game here for the Rams. The Rams are coming into this. They're riding high off of, I mean, what is this? A 6-game? They're riding a 6-game win streak. They've beaten the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers, 3 of the top teams in their division and their conference. They've just whooped up on them the past 3 weeks. And then they're coming in here and they got the Panthers. They're going into the Panthers and they're probably like, it's the Panthers. That's why I feel a trap game coming. Am I going to act on that and bench any of these Rams players? Hell no. Stafford for MVP still. If he's not the MVP by the end of the season, I am going to pull my hair out. It's going to drive me absolutely insane if this man gets snubbed for the MVP with how he is playing. He is out of his mind right now. Another 3 touchdowns last week against Tampa Bay, 273 yards. He's going to come in and he's going to do what Stafford does. He's going to throw 3 touchdowns and about 250 plus yards. Just lock it, book it, count it, whatever you want to do. That's what he's going to do. I love Kyren Williams this week. Blake Corum has been kind of getting his fair share at the 25 to 30% range of snaps, but it's still the Kyren show, and Kyren has been doing it. He did not have the touchdown last week, so it was a little bit disappointing, but he just wasn't needed last week. He was not really the focal point of the game plan, but the 3 weeks prior to that, finding the end zone, racking up the yardage, and I think that continues here in Carolina. And then obviously Puka, Devontae, done. That's it. We don't need to go into anything further on that. Don't need to go into the tight ends. Don't worry about them, and fire up the Rams defense because Bryce Young looks bad. Like, he's had the one game against San Francisco, and he's looked terrible ever since then. The game plan last week was strange, not working Dowdle in as much. I'm still starting Dowdle. It's a bad matchup, but I think that they realize now that Bryce Young is not the savior of this team, and they need to lean on Dowdle as hard as they can. And then again with Ted McMillan, he's a top 10 wide receiver on the season. I get it. It's because the Carolina has an extra game. So let's take a look at the per game basis here. Tetaroa. Okay. Good Lord. We're pulling up Tetaroa McMillan here just to double check and confirm what his what's he at? He is on a per game basis wide receiver 17, which is about what I would expect. And honestly, that's kind of he's to me, he's very much a more touchdown possible, a more explosive version of Zay Flowers right now. Not the type of player, obviously, because they're 2 completely different types of players, but just like kind of where I like group them in my fantasy rankings is kind of like those 2 are always going to be very similar because targets. The difference is Zay Flowers, better targets, less touchdown chance. T-Mac, worse targets coming from Bryce Young, but a better touchdown chance because he is the only hope, one of the only hopes that this team has at a touchdown on a weekly basis. So I feel like you still got to stick with T-Mac this week. Again, because we don't have buys, maybe you have better options and you are able to pivot away from the bad matchup. But outside of T-Mac and Dowdle, don't touch these Panthers. This is a bad matchup. I'm nervous about those two guys, and those two guys have been the only two consistent pieces of this offense on a weekly basis. So nervously starting Dowdle and T-Mac this week, and then firing up the Rams, of course. Moving right along here, because that one's a pretty simple one. We got the San Francisco 49ers going into Cleveland. And I think that this is a good spot for the Cleveland Browns defense. We saw Brock Purdy look bad last week. He threw 3 interceptions last week to the Carolina Panthers, who have not been a great defense. They've been good at times. They shut down Michael Penix early in the season. And like I said, typically the pocket quarterbacks struggle against them. I guess that's kind of what Brock Purdy is now, even though 6 rushing attempts. But 3 interceptions, and this Cleveland Browns defense is legit. I love this Cleveland Browns defense for fantasy football. I don't care what the matchup is. I don't care that they sold off some of their players. They are still putting up consistent fantasy points. I mean, Baltimore week 11, you would think Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry put up over 100 yards. They still had 16 fantasy points because 5 sacks, 10 sacks last week, 2 interceptions, a touchdown 2 weeks ago, 2 forced fumbles last week. Like, this is like, they are just causing havoc. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 games with 5+ sacks on the season. And I think that continues here. They get San Francisco this week. I'm not scared off by that matchup. Yes, Christian McCaffrey can gash them, but they can make up for it with sacks. They can make up for it with interceptions and turnovers. And then they get Tennessee, Chicago after that. So the next 3 weeks, if you're fighting for a playoff spot, hold the Cleveland Browns, use them, lean on them, because you are going to be rewarded here. Outside of that, for the Cleveland Browns, you start Judkins, and that is it. We saw Shedeur Sanders look okay in terms of NFL play. In terms of facilitating any type of fantasy relevance for any of these players, it was not there. The team, I mean, we even saw on the 2 quick Kinshad Judkins touchdowns, it was Wildcat formation. So not looking at any of these wide receivers, and we've been leaning on these tight ends quite a bit with these rookie quarterbacks, but I just don't think that that's going to be, you just can't do it. This team is run the ball and play defense, and I don't think they care about wins and losses at this point right now. They are just trying to, I don't really know what they're trying to do, but it's not throw the ball. So don't look at anyone outside of Judkins and the defense here. On the San Francisco side, I'm not trusting Purdy. Are you guys trusting Purdy? Let me know in the chat real quick if you're trusting Purdy in week 13 against this Cleveland Browns defense, because I'm not. But you're trusting your Christian McCaffrey, and honestly, Jawan Jennings is the only wide receiver I want. He's not being suspended after going after the guy that hit him in the nuts last week. But he's going to be, he's been the leading wide receiver all season when he's been healthy. Outside of like when he first came back and Kendrick Bourne was still riding the Mac Jones high. It's been Jawan Jennings as of late, and it's been George Kittle. Ricky Pearsall, he's getting the snaps, he's running the routes, but the targets have not been there. 2 targets 2 weeks ago in his first game back, 4 targets last week. One of them was a shot in the end zone, so I do think that it could come, but I'm not looking to start him this week. I don't trust him enough. I would like to see something before I do. And we get Cleveland this week where I'm not starting him. A bye in week 14, and then it's week 15 in the fantasy playoffs. So Ricky Pearsall is very, very, very difficult to trust at all. But George Kittle, easy fire right there. But just if you got Pearsall and you need wide receiver help, look somewhere else this week, and then hope that you see something this week that allows you to trust him week 1 of the playoffs against Tennessee. That's all I got to say on Pearsall. Moving on to the next game, we have a very interesting AFC South game with the Houston Texans going into Indianapolis. The Houston Texans, another one of these defenses where I don't care what the matchup is. They just keep doing it. Like against Buffalo last week, 8 sacks on Josh Allen, 3 turnovers. Like, it does not matter. The offense does not fully scare me. Like, even these offenses that can put up points, like it's fine because they're getting so much pressure. They're causing so many turnovers. They're doing so many things that are just great for the fantasy football defense, that the Houston Texans and the Cleveland Browns are two of my favorite defenses to close out the year. And honestly, Houston, if you look at their fantasy playoff schedule, week 15 against Arizona, love that. 16 against Las Vegas, love that. And we have seen them get week 17 in LA against the Chargers. And we have seen Justin Herbert and that Chargers defense just completely crumble against a good defense. So I love the Houston defense. Is probably my favorite defense to pick up and hold now for the fantasy playoffs. In terms of the skill position players, we are, I believe, CJ Stroud should be back. We'll have to wait and see. He still is technically in the concussion protocol, but he has been progressing through and is doing full participation in practice. So we should see CJ Stroud back out there. If not, we'll see Davis Mills, and we'll just see more of what we have seen, which is Nico, and Jaden Higgins as a number 2 option with some Christian Kirk sprinkled in there and some Xavier Hutchinson for another little sprinkle. But for the running backs, it's been the Woody Marks show for a while now. And like, Woody Marks hasn't been the sexiest start. He hasn't been giving you like these monster games that you want to see, but he has been very consistent. I can tell you in one of my leagues, my running back spot has been decimated. And I'm just like, I got Derrick Henry as my RB1 and I'm rolling with Woody as my RB2. The dude's just been steady. He has been the past 3 weeks over 65% of the snaps. He's been getting a majority of the work. And like I said, he's been steady. He's been getting 17, 19, 17 opportunities per game. So he's averaging about 17 opportunities per game. He's got one touchdown mixed in there, and he's been getting, he's been getting good work. So I like him. This Indianapolis defense doesn't scare me against the run too much. So I think that he's going to be a perfectly fine play here in week 13. And then, like I've been saying for the past 3 weeks, it's Nico. Jaden Higgins has the 2 weeks where he's caught touchdowns. 9 targets last week is nice, but the snap share is still it's capping out at that 60% range. So it's not the most trustworthy thing to me. Again, in a week where there are no bye weeks, I'd rather look elsewhere. I would rather look elsewhere. You can go ahead and throw the dart here because Indy, they went and they got Sauce Gardner and he will be on Nico Collins, but Indy hasn't been the strongest against the wide receivers. So it's a solid matchup for Higgins, but I don't trust it quite yet. I think he's just kind of riding those 2 touchdowns over the past 3 weeks. So with CJ Stroud back, I'm just looking to stick with my Nico Collins, my Woody Marks, and my Dalton Schultz for my tight end needy teams, because he's another guy who's just been very much consistent with targets and yardage. On the Indy side, it's very, very simple. It's Daniel Jones and it's Jonathan Taylor. You can go ahead and start Michael Pittman. He's been very consistent throughout the year. He's got a couple duds in there, but he's been very consistent outside of that. I'm not looking to start Alec Pierce this week. This defense just it scares me off of the matchup. But you start your Tyler Warren. So Tyler Warren, Jonathan Taylor locked in. And again, no bye weeks. I mean, I feel like this is going to be the cadence for the rest of the show. No bye weeks. So if you have better options, I would look away from Pittman and Pierce because this Houston defense is legit, and the way to beat them is on the ground. And when they got Jonathan Taylor back there, so they have the key to defeat this defense, and that is going to be Jonathan Taylor. And we'll see if CJ Stroud can facilitate a shootout, but I'm not banking on it. I'm banking on this being a little bit of a lower scoring game in Indianapolis, a divisional game. Those kind of tend to get bogged down in the mud a little bit here. So with that, it's Jonathan Taylor and it's Tyler Warren. Next game on the docket here is going to be a very quick and easy one. It's going to be New Orleans at Miami. New Orleans, we do have a little bit of news. Alvin Kamara missing practice, left the game last week with an injury. So it is Devin Neal time. I'm excited because I think that he had a lot of hype coming into the pre-draft process, and then he fell in the draft. So that hype kind of just fell flat. He landed in a spot that was not opportunistic. He came in behind Alvin Kamara, who has the contract extension. He came in behind Kendre Miller, who was finally going to get his opportunity. And both those guys have gone down to injury. So this is just, he's being thrust into the spotlight now due to injury. And I think that he is good enough to do something with it. This is what a guy that is drafted where he was is going to make his money. This is where he's going to go ahead and make a name for himself here. So I think that Devin Neal is going to be the primary back here. He has been dealing with an injury himself, an ankle injury, but I fully expect him to play. I fully expect him to get the bulk of the opportunities here. And we have seen this Miami defense be very susceptible to the run. We have seen some of the biggest fantasy performances of the season come against Miami on the ground. So it's a perfect smash spot for Devin Neal for you to go ahead and throw this guy into your flex, your RB2 spot for your truly desperate teams or your deep dynasty leagues, and to just like hope and pray that you get that just legacy game out of Devin Neal. We do also have Audric Estime being elevated to the active roster. I do think that he will be mixed in a little bit, but I think it's going to be Devin Neal early, and it's going to be Devin Neal often for this team. You start Olave and you start Juwan Johnson. Done with the Saints there. Miami, we're not changing the formula. Yes, they came off a bye, but the formula remains the same. You start Devon Achane and you start Jalen Waddle. That's it. Darren Waller might be back this week. He gets in a limited practice on Wednesday. He'd be coming off the IR. I'm not trusting him the first week back. So the formula remains the same. If Waller does play this week, you can go ahead and throw the dart there, but I'm not trusting that. I'm going with the tried and true formula. Achane, Waddle. That's it. Done. Moving on. We get another game here that is going to be very quick and easy for us here. Atlanta at the New York Jets. We get Kirk Cousins versus Tyrod Taylor. What year is it? Where am I? Did I travel back in time? How are we getting Kirk Cousins versus Tyrod Taylor? But we're here. We're here. On the Atlanta side, we did see Kirk Cousins look all right. You know, it wasn't the worst thing in the world last week. But still less than 200 yards. It was just nice because he got the 2 tutties in there. He did hyper target Darnell Mooney, so I'm okay going right back to Darnell Mooney myself. I guess he didn't hyper target. It was only 3 catches. What am I looking at here? I guess he didn't hyper target him. He only had three targets. I thought that was more. But we are not expecting Drake London once again. He is out with that PCL injury, so it is Darnell Mooney time. I do fully expect Darnell Mooney to be the primary target here for Kirk Cousins, with just a cavalcade of who the hell is that guy behind him. I mean, we got David Sills, we got Dylan Drummond, Kaderil Hodge, Casey Washington, Jamal Agnew. It's going to be Bijan Robinson first and foremost. But I do think that when they do pass the ball, they will be looking to Darnell Mooney, and even Kyle Pitts is worth the dart throw this week. He's right back to the Kyle Pitts of old. But against the New York Jets, I'm not scared by that at all. On the Jets side, very, very simple. Breece Hall, easy start. And then honestly, I don't hate starting John Mechie. We saw Atlanta get banged up on defense quite a bit last week, so I do think that it's going to be a little bit easier for these wide receivers to get some separation. And I think that John Mechie's been looking good. He clearly has a connection with Tyrod Taylor. So John Mechie is kind of a surprising. I don't have an official espresso shot of the week, but if I had to make an espresso shot of the week, it would be that John Mechie continues his run here and that John Mechie is going to be a top 24 wide receiver on the week. Once again, impromptu espresso shot right there. John Mechie, we've been holding out, all of us dynasty guys have been holding out hope for the guy. We've been rooting for him all along. Like, everyone's been rooting for him, and it's nice to see him finally get some opportunity here and to be taking full advantage of it. So good for him. And I expect that to continue, but really it's Breece is the easy start here. And again, John Mechie is kind of like if you want to, but once again, week 13, no buys. It's tough. It's tough to trust a guy like John Mechie in your do or die, making the fantasy playoffs situation here. So not really looking to do it, but I will if I have to. Going to be picking it up here because I am coming up on an hour and it's very late for me and I have to wake up early to make some delicious food. So we're gonna pick up the pace quite a bit here. Arizona going into Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield is still dealing with the injury, the shoulder injury to his non-throwing arm. Oh, one second there. Sorry about that. I got the baby monitor with me, and it looked like there was some stirring going on there. But once again, Baker Mayfield being held out of practice with the AC sprain on his non-throwing shoulder. Right now, Teddy Bridgewater has been taking the starter snaps in practice, which scares the living hell out of me. But on the flip side, good news: Bucky Irving expected to be back for Week 13, from what we're seeing. So I have all the confidence in the world firing up Bucky Irving and even Sean Tucker to kind of go after this Arizona rush defense that has been very susceptible. Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm actually going to have to cut this show short. I apologize. I will go ahead and make a post for the remaining games out there. I do have to go tend uh, to the children. So I appreciate you guys. Going to go ahead and just sign off here. Hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. It's been a crazy week and a half for me. So I appreciate you guys with your patience with me. And for if you do tune in on Thanksgiving, or if you just listen after the fact, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for just coming in and hanging with me as I do this and enjoyed this this fun little podcast here. So appreciate you guys. I will be posting Arizona at Tampa Bay, Jacksonville at Tennessee, Minnesota at Seattle, Buffalo at Pittsburgh, Las Vegas at the Chargers, Denver at Washington, and the Giants at the Patriots. I will be posting either a follow-up video over on Twitter or maybe even another YouTube drop here. But for now, I at least covered the Thursday games for you guys to get prepped and ready. I will go ahead and finish off there. Make sure that you like the video. Make sure that you subscribe to the Player Profiler Now channel and spend some time with your family. Enjoy every minute you guys got with them and enjoy some delicious food this weekend. Appreciate you guys, and I will catch you later this weekend, if not Tuesday for sure.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.